Recording is the downs. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Nabiyyil Ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa tabi'ina lahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin amma ba'd. Welcome back to our English programs under the supervision of Islamic Economics Association, Kuwait University. And after the month of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr, of course, we would like to greet you Eid Mubarak, Eid Kareem, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant our good deeds and efforts to be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, distinguished guests, my brothers and sisters, as usual, our Islamic Economics Association is trying to assist students, researchers, lecturers who are in the field of Islamic banking and finance to understand the proper Islamic banking and financial models and strategies. So this is the part of our activities that promote Sharia compliant finance models. So today we are very much honored to invite you all to attend this international webinar on applications of Islamic nominated contracts to structuring of Islamic financial products, revisiting the thought process. And today we have our guest speaker, very well known, who is a global figure in Islamic bank and finance, Professor Dr. Humayun Dar, a world-known banking and finance expert who earned fame for his innovative approach to structuring of faith-based and Islamic financial structuring. During his tenure as managing director with Deutsche Bank AG London, and he's also one of the most influential opinion makers in the ethical financial services industry today and advises fund managers, banks, multilateral institutions and governments on the matters related with Islamic finance and innovation for financial inclusion. He is serving currently as the Director General of Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance. Prior to this, he served as Director General of Islamic Research and Training Institute of Islamic Development Bank. With a PhD from Cambridge University and a wide-ranging experience in academia, investment banking, financial advisory, and advocacy, Dr. Humayun Dar has initiated a number of projects related to Islamic finance around the world. So without further ado, let me invite Professor Dr. Humayun Dar to conduct today's lecture. Please welcome, Prof.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ahlihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, I must say that this is a matter of great privilege and honor for me to be invited once again for this webinar being organized by the Islamic Economics Association at the University of Kuwait. I am truly honored to speak once again on a topic which is very close to my heart and consistent with my career and professional engagements. And I believe that this is a topic which is relevant to general thinking amongst those who could be considered as some kind of stakeholders in the global Islamic financial services industry. And in some ways, all of us, we are stakeholders in Islamic banking and finance. The stakeholders communities are diverse. There are certain stakeholders who are directly involved in supplying Islamic financial services. There are other stakeholders on the demand side, those who use these financial services. Then we have certain stakeholders who are not in the picture, but they are vendors to Islamic financial institutions, and they are essential parts of different Islamic finance structures and products. And the Muslim community as a whole is a stakeholder in Islamic finance, because whatever happens in the domain of Islamic banking and finance, this is going to have an indirect, if not a direct, impact on the Muslim lifestyle. So from that viewpoint, I think today's topic, which is, let me go to the next screen. Today's topic, which is on the applications of Islamic nominated contracts to structuring of Islamic financial products. This is relevant to all of us. And I would be using some simple examples to elaborate some technical and deeper thoughts, hopefully that this would stir some debate amongst the wider stakeholders in Islamic banking and finance. Brother Mohyuddin, he was very kind to introduce me, but it's always a good idea to start your presentation with a brief reference to the speaker. My name is Humayun DAR, and as already have been mentioned, I'm currently serving as Director General of Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance. I would go to the main discussion and debate without spending a lot of time on the introduction. Islamic financial contracts, they are based on Islamic nominated contracts, and there are many such contracts. I would not go into details of the classification of Islamic nominated contracts. However, when we look at any contract, this would have some elements. And there are three important elements to any transaction: the transacting parties, the activity around which the transactions are being conducted, and consideration, some kind of financial exchange happening around that activity. So when we look at a simple contract, there is someone like this gentleman, a buyer, there could be a seller, and there is an activity in this case, which is buying and selling. Of course, the contracts could be beyond buying and selling as well. There are certain agency contracts, there are certain business contracts, but the elements, transactors, activity, and consideration, they would be relevant everywhere. So in case of a mudaraba-based arrangement, we would have one party providing capital, the other party doing business, and that business activity would be the activity of that transaction, that contract, that arrangement. In this simple example, we have on the left-hand side of the screen, and I believe on your side, this is left-hand side as well. It is certainly on my left-hand side. This old gentleman has something to sell, in this case, a basket of fruits. The guy on the other side would like to buy. The basket of fruits goes from left to the right, and the dollars or whatever currency we are using, that would go from right to the left. So this is a very simple sale and purchase agreement between two known parties. And the price is known and it is being paid on spot. The object of sale is known and that is being transferred on spot as well. So in terms of ambiguity, there is very little ambiguity, or what we call in Arabic gharar, in this kind of simple transactions. Two parties decide to do something, in this case, sale and purchase. One party offers something to sell, other party likes it and hence accepts to buy. So there is ijab-wal-qubul. So there is proposition and there is acceptance. After this acceptance, the object of sale goes from the seller to the buyer and the buyer pays the price. This is a kind of activity which was in the minds of the classical fuqaha when they came up with the detailed rulings which are there in the books of Fiqhul Muamalat al-Maliyya. However, when we jump from the classical era or the period before the advent of technology and come to our contemporary lives, contemporary world, we find that a lot of transactions, they are not as simple. And I would like to call these new transactions as new age transactions. And in these new age transactions, in a lot of cases, there is a purchaser like myself, and I am trying to, or I end up buying stuff from unknown sellers. So these aqidan, one, the buyer is known, of course it is me, but I'm not sure who is selling me the things which I am buying. So this unknown seller kind of incidence is there mostly in case of our dealings with large sellers. In some cases, okay, this is when we are dealing in these transactions through machines like computers or the mobile applications. These mobile applications, they have become ubiquitous. A lot of transactions we make, these are through our mobile phones, and we use various applications. So in these new age transactions, one party, the seller, we are not sure, although technically we should be sure. And I would try to highlight this issue with the help of this example, which I actually went through lately. We bought our new kitchen from a company called Wren Kitchens in United Kingdom. We went there. Wren Kitchens would have huge showrooms. It is a high street brand. You go to their showrooms and you will find all kind of equipment on display, full kitchens and the related appliances. They would be on display. And based on your observation, based on the display, you would decide whether you would like to buy or not. So we went to Wren Kitchens and we decided to buy a chosen kitchen, which we chose along with a lot of appliances. And I think our total budget, a total price we paid was about 30,000–40,000 pounds. Of course, when I was in the showroom using my mobile phone, I paid the price, whatever was the price. I don't remember the exact amount now. And Wren Kitchen guys, the relationship manager or customer manager who was dealing with us, he said, you would receive delivery on or between dates so and so, and it would be very helpful for you if you could open an account with Ren Kitchens using Ren Kitchens app, because the details of this transaction, this order would be there. Of course, my wife downloaded the Ren Kitchens app, and after putting this reference number, she found all the details of the order over there. On the delivery date, we received the delivery, but there were certain items missing because it was a big order. So it is quite possible that some of the items would be missing. She picked up the phone and spoke with Ren Kitchens. And Ren Kitchens guys, they said, you should not have called us. You should be calling the seller. And we said, we bought the stuff from you. So for us, you are the sellers. They said, no, we are not the sellers. Our vendors are sellers. So once we have processed the order, we have nothing to do with the order. And of course, they said, go back to the application. In that application, you will find who is the vendor, and there would be contact details over there. Call them. Of course, we followed the instructions, and we called the relevant vendors, and they sent the missing items. But in this process, we came to know that Ren Kitchens was not the actual seller. The actual sellers were some vendors. Now, this extractor, which you can see on the screen, we got it installed along with other items. And within a week, this broke down. Again, my wife called Ren Kitchens, and they said, you should not have called us. You should have called the company which has supplied this to you. Again, we went through this process, and we came to know that this company was actually a German company, and they said, we do not operate in UK. However, we have appointed a representative which would look into any technical matters of this sort, and they should help. And they gave us this number, and our problem was taken care of. So in this whole process, we came to know that a lot of transactions which we make either in the showrooms of large sellers like Ren Kitchens, or a lot of transactions which we directly make through machines and apps, the identity of sellers is hidden somewhere. Of course, in certain cases, this is mentioned somewhere, but as buyers, we are not interested in those small prints. In certain other cases, the information is actually missing or implicit. Okay. So this is one example of a new age transaction in which this identity of seller is not known. Now, if we want to apply the principles of fiqhul or fiqhul muamalat al-maliya on this kind of transactions, we would find a lot of problems. If not problems, we would find a lot of challenges to see what are the implications of this kind of transactions for the fiqhi rulings. And I must say that this is not just one-off example. There are now hundreds and hundreds of examples of this sort. I will share with you another example, and this is a real example like the previous one. I'm not assuming the things. You have come across, I am certain that some of you might have used eBay to make some transactions, to buy certain stuff. This friend of mine, he bought a used mobile phone using eBay platform. Of course, as you know, in case of eBay, the stuff, the objects of sale, they are listed there. If you are happy, you can go through the details and move forward to buy the item. So this friend of mine paid about £600 for a used mobile phone, and the mobile phone was delivered to him. He bought this mobile phone for his wife, who was going to Pakistan. So she was there for about 1 month, came back, and within a week or so, the mobile phone stopped working. It wasn't a small transaction, not about, say, £50 or £100. Okay, he had paid £600. Hence, he called the person who sold him this mobile phone through eBay. That guy picked up the phone and he said, look, I sold you this phone quite a few weeks back, probably about 2 months back. And at that time it was working, and you are confirming that it was working, but now it has stopped working. Hence, this is not my liability. And I'm not going to take any responsibility for this one. So of course, this friend of mine was not happy about it. He did some research and he actually called the mobile phone company, the mobile operator, which had sold this phone to the seller. And he came to know that this phone was actually on a contract. And this person, after buying this mobile phone on a contract, the way the contracts work in the UK, you want to have the latest Galaxy phone, Samsung phone, or an iPhone, you just go to, for example, O2 or 3 or any other mobile phone operator, and they would give you the phone for free with the contract, and you will have to pay the monthly installments over a period of 24 months or 36 months. So this guy had bought this mobile phone through a contract, and he had just paid a small amount of money, and he had to pay the remaining money over a period of 24 months. So when he sold this phone, he stopped paying. And as a result of that, the mobile operator actually blocked the phone. Now, this friend of mine wasn't happy about it. He went back to eBay and explained the things. And eBay said, let us do some investigation. If this is the case, we will give you your money back. They did some investigation and they gave the money back to this friend of mine. And they advised him that send this mobile phone to the seller, and we are going to have whatever conversation with him later. He called the guy and he said, I'm not going to give you my address. And from here, okay, another point, you are buying certain things from someone, you do not know the exact details of the person. You don't know even the name of the person. In this case, my friend knew only the mobile number of the person. Of course, he got the money back, but the implication of this one is that effectively, because all the liability was taken up by eBay, so from the consumer's perspective, he actually bought this mobile phone from eBay, because eBay is the known party. The other party is not known. The other party is known to eBay, but not known to the buyer. So again, this is a case where there is a lot of ambiguity on the seller. Some people, rightly or wrongly, may assume that actually we are buying the stuff from eBay. eBay is only one example. If you go to Amazon, in case of Amazon, there is mixing of the identity of the seller. If you're using Amazon, you would find certain items which are actually sold by Amazon, and there would be some indication around the item you are considering to buy. And there are third-party items on Amazon as well. But when you go into details, you find that the identity of sellers is at best ambiguous. And in a lot of cases, especially when you are using the platforms like Amazon and eBay, the liability of the transaction lies with the platform, Amazon. If a transaction goes wrong, Amazon would return your money. And same is true for eBay and so many other platforms. I will share, excuse me, another example. And again, this is my personal example. Recently, I bought my car insurance using a website called confused.com. So if you go to confused.com, put your details, confused.coms would give you 20, 30, 50 options to choose from. So in case of my transaction, when I put my details, they referred a company called the Insurance Factory. So the Insurance Factory, they called me and they said, we have got your details and this is the insurance premium and these are the details. If you're happy, we can move forward on the transaction. And actually I did that. Later on, after a few days, the Insurance Factory guys, they sent me a text message. They called me as well, and they sent me an email asking me to provide a proof of my 2 years no claim bonus. My previous insurance company is Direct Line. So I called them, and due to some technical problems, these guys could not send me a valid certificate of no claim bonus. It's a long story, but I'm cutting it short. I got so frustrated. I said, if that is the case, the Insurance Factory, you can cancel my my policy because I am not able to provide this proof. And without this proof, you would not be able to continue, because Insurance Factory said, if you are not able to provide us the proof, we would cancel the insurance policy. Now, in this country, whenever you're trying to buy insurance, they would ask you, has your insurance been canceled by an insurer? And if you say yes, then you have to pay a lot more premium than a usual customer. So I did not like that option. Hence, I asked them, if I request you to cancel my insurance policy, how much money would I get back? And the money they came back with, that was laughable. So I think my insurance premium for my one car is about £700, and they said you will be getting about £200, and this is after 1 month, within 1 month. I said, and I paid you for 12 months, but for 1 month you are charging me about £500. And they said, oh, actually, there are a lot of charges. The Insurance Factory told me that we are not the insurers. Insurance company is another one. And when I went through the details, they were right. Actually, I was insured by another insurance company. And if I have to cancel my insurance company now, or my insurance policy now, I would have to pay so many fees to confused.com, to the insurance company, and of course to the insurer as well. So I came to know that actually I was not insured by the Insurance Factory, but rather there was another insurer. And this is definitely a case of an unknown seller. Of course, when you receive the documents, the information is there. But you, as I said earlier, you don't go into all those details. So these new age transactions are not the kind of transactions which were in the mind of the fuqaha, or which were considered by the fuqaha before they came up with these rules. We are trying to apply in the context of Islamic banking and finance, and in other contexts as well. So this is a kind of, I would say, introduction to what I am going to discuss with you from now on. So based on this conversation so far, or based on whatever I have presented, I don't think this is a conversation, this is a monologue. I am the only one talking. So there are simple transactions. In case of simple transactions, there are known transactors, known activity, known consideration. Then in the context of new age transactions, we have complicated transactions, known and unknown transactors, known and unknown activities, amount of consideration to be determined, or in some cases, the exact amount of consideration is not known to you. In case of insurance example, the actual price which went to the insurer was very small. A lot of money went to the arrangers, to the confused.com, to the insurance factory, and so on. So you are not sure what you are actually paying for the service you are receiving, and this breakdown is not there when you are entering into the transaction. Then there are some transactions which are complex. So there is a different, I would like to differentiate between complicated and complex transactions. In case of complex transactions, the transactors may not be identifiable. In case of complicated transactions, the transactors may not be known, but with some effort, you would be able to identify them. In case of complex transactions, you may not be able to identify the transaction. If I refer to blockchain-based transactions, in most cases, the identity of the seller is not known. If you want to buy Bitcoin, you are actually buying from a number through an exchange, and you don't know who is the exact seller. And even if you try to identify the seller, I am not a technical guy, but I think you will find it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to trace the transactor, the seller, if you have bought some Bitcoins. Of course, in most cases, we simplify, we say that, oh, we actually bought the Bitcoins from this exchange. Hence, we say that this exchange is a seller. But actually, exchange is not a seller. Exchange is only a facilitator. There could be known activities and, of course, known considerations, but complexity of a transaction is defined by unidentifiability of the transactors. Then we have Islamic transactions. Now, Islamic transactions are very interesting. Okay. In case of Islamic transactions, Islamic financial transactions, there are known transactors, but chosen by a third party. In a lot of transactions, and I would give one example, we know roughly who are the transactors, but we don't have control on those transactors. We do not deal with them directly. And hence, we say that they are chosen by someone else for us. Similarly, activity is known, but in a lot of cases, the activity is not intended. Remember, in the simple example we started with, the activity is known. I want to buy a basket of fruits, and I am paying a price for this one, and this is my intention. In a lot of Islamic financial transactions, the activity I am engaging myself in through someone else, that is not my real intention. My intention is something else. Similarly, known consideration. In a lot of cases, the consideration is understood, but it may not be known. So in the modern time contracts, excuse me, most of them, they are not simple transactions. Of course, okay, these simple contracts, whenever I go to my local grocery shop, I make these simple transactions. However, a lot of new age transactions, they happen to be complicated, they happen to be complex. And if I am a user of an Islamic financial service, I am dealing with some transactions which are peculiar to Islamic banking and finance. Right. Now, let us exemplify Islamic financial contracts. Islamic personal finance facility. In a lot of cases, an Islamic personal finance facility is based on tawarruk. And the intention in case of tawarruk-based Islamic personal finance facility is exchange of money for money. I'm looking for some money now. I'm looking for some liquidity now to pay this money back in future. This is the intention. And everyone knows, the banks, Islamic banks know, and the customer would know that this is the intention. Now, in order to fulfill this intention, Islamic bank would come up with this complicated thing. I don't want to go into details. In a tawarruk-based arrangement, bank would buy something, a commodity from a broker one, and would then sell it to this customer, serving as his agent, and then serving as the agent of the customer. The bank would be selling this commodity to a broker B to generate this liquidity, which would then be given to the customer. The end result of all this is that the bank gives a certain amount of money now to the customer, now at T0, and would receive money more than what was given to the customer on a future date T1. This is the end result. We know what happens in this box. We are not going into the details of that one. But on the surface, what happens is this exchange of money for money. Okay. And because of that, a lot of people actually get confused. They do not know, or they are not interested in what happens in the background. So they say, oh, this is actually, I have got 100,000 dirhams and I'm paying to the bank over a certain time period, 110,000 dirhams. Exchange for money for money. Now, this is not just one example of an Islamic financial product. The story is almost the same in case of car financing. It's the same in case of home financing. Of course, the underlying contracts would be different. In case of car financing, it could be a murabha-based transaction. Okay. In case of home financing, it could be a diminishing musharaka-based or ijara-based contract. But the end result of all these financial products is that their risk-return profiles are almost the same as in case of conventional financial products. I'm not questioning the Sharia compliancy of these products. Of course, they are Sharia compliant products. I'm referring to the economic profiles of these products. Now, when we are using these Islamic financial products on the basis or structured around Islamic nominated contracts, and we come up with the products which have exactly the same risk return profile as a corresponding conventional financial product, implicitly we are recognizing the need for the end result. I.e., we say, oh, personal finance facility is required. It is needed. Home financing is needed. Car financing is needed. And when we use a pricing mechanism, which is based on interest rate mechanism, then implicitly we are recognizing that interest rate mechanism is probably the efficient tool for pricing of these products. I think we have to think about this thing very carefully. Now, and we say that, yes, at the end, whatever you observe in the market, that is more or less the same as conventional interest-based financial system would allow, but this is based on a different process. Now, if we go back to neutrality, I am known as an advocate of Islamic banking and finance. But if I assume that I'm not an advocate of Islamic banking, I'm a neutral person, I must ask this question: is the process important? Of course, when I put my Sharia technician hat, I would say yes. But a lot of critics and a lot of members of general public, they would say no. I don't know what you say, but you just answer this question honestly in your heart. What would be your answer? Some of you would say yes, others you may say no. Now, irrespective of what is your answer to question one, is the process important? Yes or no? Let's go to question number two. Is the process welfare enhancing? unambiguously, the answer would be no. It's because the risk return profiles of Islamic financial products are exactly the same as conventional products. Hence, Islamic financial products, they do not bring additional welfare to the transacting parties, especially the users of financial services. The real benefit of the process is that it ensures conformity with the classical requirements for making transactions. Okay. Now, another question we must ask, is welfare enhancing important? And a lot of us would say that yes, improvement in welfare is always welcomed. Now, when we look at Islamic financial products of all sorts, Islamic banking products, Islamic capital markets products, and even other Islamic investment products. In general, we find that there is no welfare enhancing aspect which is unique to Islamic financial products. So it's not there. So although even if we accept that the process is important, the process which we have adopted is not welfare enhancing. And we recognize that welfare enhancement is an important thing. Now, from here, I'm looking at the time as well. We have about 20 minutes left. So when we compare Islamic banking and conventional banking products, as I said, okay, the end result is that they are exactly the same. Now, if the end result in economic terms is the same, then we cannot criticize conventional interest-based products in terms of their economic effects, because Islamic financial products have exactly the same economic effect as well. If you have bought your house using an Islamic mortgage, how different is this Islamic mortgage from a conventional one? We say that only in legal terms, otherwise it's more or less the same. The question arises, if we really want to make a change, bring a change, then we have to come up with a truly alternative, differentiable product system. And one possibility is going for interest-free loans. Right? And when people like me, we talk about interest-free loans, Islamic bankers would laugh and they would say, "Are you crazy? We are not a charitable organization." They would say offering interest-free loans to customers is not commercially viable. Now, if in offering interest-free loans or something like this one is not commercially viable, would this not have been preferred to develop Islamic finance as a non-commercial phenomenon, as a charitable phenomenon, given that there is huge emphasis on charity, on sadaqat, okay, in an Islamic economic system? You are members of Islamic Economic Society. Okay. And in Islamic economics, if we open our eyes and if we just try to observe with neutrality, we would find that Islamic economics, probably about 60 or 70% of this is based on giving, on charitable giving, on sadaqah. Now, it's not too late even now. Of course, we have developed Islamic banks, and I would be only silly to say that Islamic banks should be closed down. No, whatever we have developed, we should try to reform it. Okay, we should try to bring some positive changes in them. In addition to that, if we start a new institution, which is not new. The concept is not new. WAQF. So if we start organizing Islamic finance within or in the form of a WAQF structure, that would give us, or that may give us, a new tool which would be a unique contribution of Muslims to human civilization. And like, we have in a country, we have 50 banks. In some other countries, we have 100 banks. So if we have a spectrum of awqaf, which could be built and run in different sectors and for various activities, that would give us some fundamental elements of an Islamic economic system. And once we have done this thing in one country, a network of awqaf must be developed in the world, countries, states, and communities. And I would give one example, simple example. You might laugh on this example, but I have to share that one. Let us assume, this is one area in a city where about 10,000 households, they live, and we call it blue area. Okay. And based on the assumption that, in one household, there are 5 persons. So there are 50,000 households living in this blue area. And if these 50,000 individuals, if they consume 3 breads per day, okay, then the bread consumption there's 4.5 million breads per month are being consumed in the blue area, which is equal to over 54 million breads per annum. Okay, so the inhabitants of this area, a small area within a city, would be consuming 54.75 million items of bread. And then there is another area, this 1,000 households, they live in an adjoining area which is not as affluent as this blue area. So based on the assumption of 6 persons per household, there are 6,000 persons in this gray sector. And if they consume 3 breads per day per person, then on annual basis, the people in this area, they consume 6.57 million breads on an annual basis. Now, when we talk about WAQF as opposed to a bank is a very sophisticated institution where the employees go with tie, and or if tie is not part of the culture, okay, they wear some very fashionable clothes. WAQF is a completely different thing. So if you create a bread WAQF, I just call it WAQF-UL-KHUBZ. Okay, and for this blue area and the adjoining as well, if they have 10 units of bakeries. Okay, in India, Pakistan, okay, they would call them tandoor. Okay, but it's basically a bakery, basic bakery. And if there are 20 employees per bakery, in total, there would be about 200 people employed in this whole system of bakeries for this particular area. I would not go into the details, but just trust me, this bakery system would have 547.5 million rupees as annual revenue. Okay, per bakery there would be 54.75 million revenue, and if the overhead charges are 10% of that one, that will be 5.475, say 5.5 million. That is the overhead, and other expenses another 5.5, and of course there would be and this is based on the assumption that the price of one bread is 10 rupees. The market price of the bread these days, which is recognized by the government, okay, in Pakistan is 12 rupees. Okay, but if you, for simplicity, just say 10 rupees. And if you take care of all the expenses, the procurement expenses or whatever, per bakery, you end up having 31.755 million surplus, out of which you pay salaries, 30,000 rupees a month salaries per person, then there will be 3.6 million. And of course, if you give free breads to the households in the gray area, that would cost you 6.557 million. And you would still end up with a lot of surplus profit, which could remain part of the WAQF for the WAQF to grow as well. Now, this is, you must have been expecting some sophisticated examples. And this bread example might have dampened your interest in my my lecture, but I urge you that don't underestimate the power of the model. This is a simple example, but when you try to look into it, okay, from a global perspective as well. In case of Turkey, 93 billion pieces of bread are consumed on an annual basis. And this is a very, very conservative estimate, by the way. Over 17 billion kilograms of bread is consumed in Turkey every year. Okay, and this 93 billion pieces, this is a very conservative estimate around it. And there is $3 billion US market. But just this small item, I'm not talking about the whole meal, just this one small bread item. In Pakistan, the market is $12 billion US for this roti or chapati thing only. And this is on a very, very conservative side. If we look into the global Muslim population, their bread or equivalent requirement is 328.5. And this 328.5 is for bread or something like bread. I'm not including rice, because the rice eating nations, they would have something in addition to that one as well. Okay. So, and this is not a model which stops here. Steve Jobs had a vision. He said that he thought that I'm going to bring a revolution to information gathering and information dissemination with the help of this handheld device. This has changed our lives. Now, if the thought leaders in the Muslim world, if they have a vision, like we want to have future homes without a kitchen, no kitchen, okay, it would be only bedrooms and other things, okay, but a future home would not have a kitchen, then this kind of model, which is WAQF-UL-KHUBZ, it could be extended to the full meal. So people, women, they wouldn't have to cook. And a lot of time we spend, women spend, okay, they spend in the kitchen. If once they don't have a kitchen at home, and there is an arrangement which would allow them to eat and which would allow them to feed their kids, they would have about 50% of global population or 50% of global Muslim population would have a lot of more time at their disposal. That would be a change in lifestyle. So if Islamic finance guys, if they say that their transactions are real economic transactions, then they would have to look into this kind of things. They would have to come up with the awqaf of different kinds. Right now, it is only a claim. When Islamic banks say that we are actually dealing with the real economic sector, this is a lie. Sometimes this is deliberate. Sometimes this is an unintended lie. No, they have all to do with the financial sector. Okay. And any claim that they are actually involved in trading, they are doing the real sector activities, the evidence is against it. Now, if Islamic finance has to develop itself, it has to develop around the real economy. And this one tool could be WAQF. You can come up with a housing WAQF. You can come up with a transportation WAQF. You can come up with an educational waqf. You can come up with a health waqf. And these examples are already there. I went to Frankfurt. Okay, in the Frankfurt, okay, in London, we have these cycles. We call them Santander. Barclays started it, so we used to call them Barclays cycles. Now Santander has taken up the sponsorship of these cycles. You go to the central London, you want to move from one place to another one, you don't want to take taxi, you don't want to use public bus, you don't want to use underground. With the help of your app, you just grab this one bicycle and go to wherever you want to go and leave it there. There are docks. In Frankfurt, they had these scooties. And people, they were using. Housing waqf. Housing is a big issue everywhere. Now, if through a waqf structure, when we say housing waqf, basically you are talking about a new ownership structure. In case of waqf, if I am living in a property as part of a waqf, I don't own it. And I actually, if we can come up with a system which allows me to live in a decent lifestyle without having to own the property, I would love it. And you have to educate people. 60% cases are there when two parents, myself and my wife, if we die, and if we have 4 or more children, thankfully we have 3 children only. If you have 4 or more children, and if parents die, there are 60% chances that the house which I built for my children, that would be sold. So we say, oh, this house is for our children. No, this is not for them. They would be selling and distributing the proceeds amongst themselves. Now, if we can come up with a model which allows me to lead a decent life without having to own a house, the housing waqf, this model is a beautiful one. That is one option. Transportation waqf. You know, we spend a lot of money on our private cars. And in the West, you know, there is a tendency now. The private cars, they are becoming less and less expensive in real terms. You know, gone are the, I live in UK. Even if I buy a 200,000 pounds car, I cannot go beyond 70 miles per hour. Okay. So the joy of having a car has gone down. Hence, a lot of people, they're going for smaller cars. Same is true for education waqf, health waqf. So this approach, you know, the real economic approach to financial matters, that would be a completely different story. This would be a new lifestyle for a lot of people. And this lifestyle, this is not just a fiction kind of thing. This has already started emerging. And the question is, are we ready for it? The Western world is getting itself ready for this new lifestyle. We, those living in the Muslim countries or the Muslim population in the non-Muslim countries, okay, we have to think very carefully. Are we really ready for a truly Islamic financial lifestyle? With this one, I would like to stop here, and I would be very happy to answer any questions. Hello.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much, Prof. It was an interesting and very informative lecture with some recommendations and models. It's really interesting, Prof. I think our audience and guest would like to ask some questions or maybe add some comments. We open the floor for our participants. Please, if you have any comment or if you want to ask our Prof, you may raise your hand or you may write in the question box, please. Okay, meanwhile, we would like to invite you to one very important international workshop, which is organized by Cambridge Islamic Finance Institutions, Prof. Is it your
Cambridge Institute of Islamic Finance.
Islamic Finance? So it's 6th Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program. 6th Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program will be held in August, on 7th to 12th August in University of Cambridge. So I will write the program name in the chat box so that it will be easy for you to search in Google and go through it and register if you are interested. And this is very, I have gone through this program, and I have seen that this is very interesting for especially students and researchers of Islamic banking and finance. So please grab this opportunity. I am writing 6th Cambridge Islamic Leadership Program. 6th Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program. So if anybody would like to join, you go and search this name in Google. So you will find the website and also information registration form. So please, you can have this opportunity, inshallah. And I think if anybody provide reference, our Kuwait Islamic Finance Association, maybe Prof will consider something, maybe, inshallah. Prof, this is, if you would like to say a few words of this leadership training program, please.
Yeah, I must say that, this is a leadership training program for the practitioners of Islamic banking and finance. It is not structured for the academicians. However, since we started the program, there has always been limited representation from the academic institutions as well. Primarily from the institutions which are offering qualifications and courses in Islamic banking and finance, because they would like to know what are the trends in the market. So the likes of UITM, for example, in Malaysia, they have sent 1 or 2 of their staff, okay, not students, their staff, to understand, what are we trying to do. Similarly, we had some universities from Europe as well. So out of 35 to 40 participants, we have about 3 or 4 people coming from academia as well. We have, for the students, okay, we have a program which is called internship. So every year we have about between 3 to 5 young men and women who would like to have experience of organizing this kind of programs. So they actually join us for a very small amount, because this program costs us a lot of money. Okay, so we ask them to contribute a bit to the accommodation. Okay, and they can benefit from this program by way of being there and interacting with some already established leaders in Islamic finance and some others who have potential to become the CEOs and the equivalent kind of people in the industry. So those of you, normally these 3 to 5 young men and women, they come with the recommendation of our alumni. I would say in the last 5-6 years, most of these interns, they were sons and daughters of our previous attendees. Okay, because they liked it so much. They said, our children Okay, they should have this experience as well. But of course, okay, we can open this to the members of Islamic Economics Association at
Prof,
Q.
it's like a selective. You are
Yes,
going to select.
that's
So,
right.
and with the limited seats.
It is very, very limited. Okay, we, as I said, okay, this is actually for the practitioners. If I give you about 4 or 5 CEOs of Islamic financial institutions, they attend, another 4 or 5 deputy CEOs, and then about 10 to 15 senior management of Islamic financial institutions, another 10 to 10 about middle management, and so on. So in addition to this one, okay, we have some interns and some academicians, but our focus is not on academia. This is not an academic program at all. This is very much practice oriented.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Inshallah, maybe from our platform, someone is going to join, inshallah. So if there is any question, please, or any comment from
So
our...
if there is no question, I would assume that, either you did not like it at all, or
No problem.
or
I
you
think
are
everyone
so
likes the
angry.
ideas, mashallah. And especially the models that you presented, mashallah, is very applicable, I guess.
I think important thing for all of us to take away is that, if we say that Islamic finance is related with real sector, then the proof is in the pudding. Okay. The Islamic financial products we have, okay, they do not deal with the real sector in a unique fashion. When they say, oh, we are financing cars, and hence we are related with the real sector, this is something with conventional banks are doing as well. So don't try to fool us by saying that, our activities are related with the real sector. No.
Right. Thank you. ساعة ونص، ساعة الدورة، ساعة لساعة واحدة، والآن مجال الأسئلة والأجوبة. So I think there is no more questions or any comment. We can see still there are more than 70.
Right.
عفوا أستاذ محمد سليمان، شكرا لكم. So Prof, thank you very much for your this wonderful lecture and interesting information that we received today. MashaAllah, thank you so much. May Allah reward you. And we thank all participants for joining us in this session. And I would like to invite you as well to our regular programs, both in Arabic and English languages. Every day, if you visit our website, sharia.org, or if you write Untitled Chapter in Facebook, in Twitter, and we do have as well WhatsApp group, so you will know the upcoming events and activities. So we invite you to join our programs, as all the programs are free of charge. So thank you so much for joining always. And what is the difference between Islamic banking and commercial is already... هل من الممكن أن تكون هناك برامج محاضرة لتعليم اللغة الإنجليزية من خلال هذا الاقتصاد الإسلامي؟ إن شاء الله نحن إن شاء الله نناقش في الاجتماع مع المجلس إن شاء الله، ونشوف كيف هل هناك إمكانية لتنظيم برامج والمحاضرات لتعليم اللغة الإنجليزية بإذن الله. شكرا لكم أخونا. So thank you so much, and we thank our Director General, Dr. Alal Ubaid, and all the brothers and sisters in Nadal Iqtisad al-Islami for their effort. And with that, we conclude the session here. And we'll see you again soon, inshallah, in upcoming programs. May Allah bless us all. May Allah reward us all. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.